All right, back on the Young Turks, Cenk Adano with you. Every week we do a million stories. And on every Friday, I feel like, God, there's like 40 I wanted to get to.
So I'm not surprised by that.
Okay, anyway, you all know that. Let's get started. We got some great stories here.
Back in 2010, Krystal Ball was part of a congressional race. She was running for Virginia's 1st congressional district, and that's really what put her on the radar. But unfortunately, she lost. You know, she is a Democrat. But it's also important to keep in mind.
I like the way you framed that, like, unfortunately, she lost. She is a Democrat. but it was in a little bit more conservative a district.
Yeah, let me give you some more information on the district itself. It's been held by Republicans since the 1960s. She lost by 30% of the vote. It's a very conservative area. She wasn't going to win anyway, right?
Yeah, I know. I love how they're framing it like the pictures that came out about her might have cost her the election. If the pictures hadn't come out, she might have only lost by 28.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
But these photos leaked of her nonetheless, and they caused quite a bit of controversy around her campaign, so much so that, you know, she felt embarrassed by it, and it was such a big deal. So what did the pictures look like? They must have been pretty bad, right?
Oh, yeah, it's horrible. I mean, earmuff the kids, eye muff them. I mean, we're about to show you some racy pictures.
Here's Krystal Ball on HuffPost Live talking about the picture scandal.
It was devastating, and one of the things that I was really sensitive to as a young woman, and frankly a young, attractive woman, was being stereotyped as not serious, not smart, not serious, not really in it to win.
Because you were young.
I was young.
And a woman, which is,
and it was my first time running. And so, and I was a new mom. I mean, it just, in a conservative district in Virginia, you know, it was a big barrier to overcome just to get people to take me seriously. And I really just wanted to hide in a corner.
Okay, so those pictures look like the same kind of pictures that you could find on only 90% of the Facebook profiles.
So 90% of women, I think guys probably get a little more leeway when it comes to those pictures.
Don't get me wrong, the guys will have just as stupid of pictures. They'll have dumber pictures, right? But they're guys, so they'll get a little bit more of a pass.
I had never heard about her picture scandal until recently, so I was like, oh my God, was she naked? What happened? Like, was she like caught having sex? What's the scandal? And then when I saw that, I couldn't believe that people made a big deal out of it, right? Especially if her opponent was making a big deal out of it, because you're going to kick her ass anyway. Like, why are you going to bring these pictures up?
Yeah, listen, it's time to keep it real. That's what we do, okay? And I like Krystal Ball. She's been on the show a couple of times. She's part of a good MSNBC show now, etc., right? But these picture scandal thing helped her tremendously. She was going to be one of many Democrats who ran a hopeless race, lost by 20 or 25 or whatever it is, and nobody was going to notice. Instead, she's an attractive young woman. She runs in this race. She loses as she's expected, but there's a picture scandal. Oh my God, sexy pictures. So she gets a ton of press attention over that, and next thing you know, well, you look at that, she's an MSNBC contributor. Do all people who lose by 30 points in races become MSNBC contributors? No, and then next thing you know, she's part of a new MSNBC show. I like her. I don't have anything against her. I'm just saying, keep it real. It was the best thing that ever happened to her.
That's really interesting. I didn't put 2 and 2 together, because when Krystal Ball suddenly showed up on MSNBC, I remember booking her. That was during the time when I was doing guest booking for TYT. And when I saw her at MSNBC, I was like, what? Krystal Ball is on television? Did she run for Virginia's 1st congressional district? Like, that's so random. But in this next video, she seems like she's a little apologetic about it, right? Like, it was the worst thing that could have happened to her. Let's take a look.
And I really just wanted to hide in a corner. But I actually thought about what kind of a message would that send to future women, men from our generation who have stupid party photos, who might want to serve. You know, to hide in the corner isn't the right message to send for them. So I decided to go to camera that night to defend myself and basically say, you know, this has no place in a campaign, and not to apologize, but just to say, you know, this is our voters deserve better.
Okay, so I'm not going to apologize, but our voters deserve better. Like, does she mean better from the opponent or better from her campaign? I don't know what she means.
No, I don't think she means her campaign. I think she means they deserve a better process than this.
Oh, I see.
That this matters.
Then I take it back. I totally misunderstood what she was saying there. But another point I just want to quickly make, and maybe this is a superficial point, but I can't help it. Man, TV really glamorizes you. She looks beautiful.
Yeah, like in the pictures, when
she looks like a normal woman,
normal person. Yeah. Like you put her on TV, she shines.
Yeah.
Right. And look, again, I'm going to keep it real, man. If she was unattractive, do you think she would have gotten those jobs? Okay,
she's also intelligent. Like
no, you need all of it.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. That's why I keep saying I like her. There's nothing wrong with her, right? You need all of it, right? And if she was dumb, she wouldn't have gotten the job, right? And if she didn't have the sex scandal, not sex, I hate that they were even accidentally saying it. If she didn't have the picture scandal, she also wouldn't have gotten the job, right? These scandals are the best thing that could happen to you, okay? And it's funny because PR people, they're naturally, instinctively like, no, avoid the scandals, avoid the scandals. No, run straight into the scandal. That's the best PR you could possibly get. I'm keeping it real. I'm not saying like we're a little too honest, a little too liberal to do stuff like that. But if you actually wanted to hear, so here's my advice to you if you want to do it, right? Man, if you run for any kind of thing like this, take whatever picture, leak it, do it yourself.
Hold on, wait, talk a little slower. Whoa, so
okay. Take racy pictures or video, run. So what, run against like one of these districts in Texas where the Republicans win unopposed. Just run against them, lose by 84 points, in the middle of it, release a video with a nipple slip. Gone. I mean, CNN's got your name written all over it. Okay, that's how it works. And by the way, again, for the millionth time, that's not what she did. Okay, she didn't slip it into the, herself, etc. And I'm sure she was mortified at the time. And as you're going through the scandal, I'm sure like it was incredibly embarrassing, etc. But it did wind up helping her.
I just want to point out where the perspective comes in here, and I think we've mentioned it before when this happens. It's so devastating, and as you said, eventually helpful in other ways for women to end up in such situations. I mean, for me to show my left ass cheek and you give me millions of dollars, I have no problem. But I understand women have that problem because they get, the society looks down upon them. But man, a guy in a second will be like, oh yeah, sorry you saw my pec nipple, my chest nipple pop out. Ah, damn it, now I have a new show. Oh, I'm probably gonna have appearance fees and all this stuff just to hear me speak because you saw a body part of mine.
I know.
Big deal.
I know.
And it sucks. As I'm saying, it sucks women. But it's because we're not in that position. We're like, oh, in a way, you have some advantages with the disadvantages.
I get it. I know that it's really easy for men to say that because they don't know how frustrating it is when you've worked really hard to achieve something and then people will point to like a nip slip or something just to discredit you. So it definitely stings, And with women, and society's changing a little bit, but with women, if you take an attractive young woman and you put her in front of a screen or a camera and she could be the smartest woman on the planet, the immediate assumption, not just by men, but by society as a whole is she's dumb. She's young and she's attractive. You have to prove yourself. Whereas with a guy wearing a suit, if he's in front of a camera, it's like, oh, look at this well-established man,
Yeah, and just one more thing about that. Xana's really right about that. Only very rarely, like maybe a Bill Hemmer or something. Yeah, okay, that's funny. You were going to say the same thing. That you'll get like, well, he's on TV just because he's a good-looking guy, but there ain't anything upstairs. But that's really rare. Whereas that happens to women all the time.
It happens to women all the time. And that's what I'm saying. It's, without saying it completely, you're still getting paid, dude. And you're on TV. There's some people like, man, I wish I could get on TV somehow because I'm smart, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I can't get on TV. Maybe if they just maybe if I flexed, maybe I'll get on TV. That's what I'm saying. You can't, what's the guy supposed to show of attraction features to get him over that hump? And it's bad because we do that to women because the large majority get pushed aside because of that. But there's somewhere where people get the magic token and they get put on TV and because they're good looking and then they get some established credit because of it.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, you know what? I lied. One last thing, because I've never said this before, right? And there's so many things that happen in MSNBC that I've actually never talked about, and they're all really interesting stories, etc. The reason I don't talk about them is because it's not part of a larger point. I revealed what happened to me at MSNBC because there was an important point to make about the media, right? So I'll hide the identities of these people even though I'm not big fans of theirs, right? But when I was at MSNBC, there were comments made about, well, aren't we generous for putting you and Ed on? Because we don't, because me and Ed, we got some weight issues and we don't look great, right?
Well,
Okay, anyway.
I know, I don't want to throw anyone under the
Right,
bus,
right,
but
right.
I would argue that there are others that are.
Anyway. But so it does actually apply to men too. So,
Yeah.
I mean, not as much as it does to women. Not as much, definitely, right? But it like,
Jeez.
okay, but they keep an eye on that too. And they're like, well, and they're like, are we not merciful?
All right. Jeez.
Okay, all right, let's move forward.
UCLA has some problems when it comes to racist students. And just recently, there were these flyers posted around campus that said pretty horrible things about Asian students. Let's take a look at the video.
A reminder that there are fringe elements in America and in every country that are racist, ignorant, and criminal. I mean, it's kind of a reality that
No.
we will have to continue.
That's not the right video.
That's not the right video. Let me just tell you what was said. So the Vietnamese student union had a sign in one of the buildings, and on the sign someone had posted a flyer that said Asian women are honky white boy worshipping whores. In the bathroom near the Vietnamese student union there was another sign that said Asian women are white boy worshipping sluts.
Okay, so now this is a big scandal, understandably, at UCLA, and they're saying that it is kind of sexist, obviously, right, and racist. But I want to clarify something here. The women there are scared, they should be, etc. It's all terribly wrong. I hope they find the guys who did it. But don't assume that it was white people who did it. I think it's very, very likely that it was Asian guys who did it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course, Asian males, right. So let's just keep that real. I mean, because every article I read on this is like, oh my God, can you believe this racial attack against the Vietnamese? It was probably done by Vietnamese. Okay, I don't know which ethnicity, and it's not fair to say probably Vietnamese, but very likely Asian males wrote that, right? So keep it real.
So
it doesn't make it any better, don't get me wrong. Just keep it in perspective.
It's strange because I feel like a lot of the hate toward Asians in these schools revolves around jealousy. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, my mind wanders back to Alexandra Wallace. I mean, how could you not think of her when you're doing a story about UCLA and racism or sexism toward Asian students? And it was jealousy. Like, she couldn't handle the fact that all of these really smart, educated students got into a great university. Of course, they're all around you, and I think it has a lot to do with that. Now, in this case, you're probably right. I don't know who did it. No one knows who did it. So it is based on a lot of speculation. But for the sake of remembering a hilarious video, let's go back to Alexandra Wallace's video that made her basically drop out of school.
You will always see old Asian people renting around this apartment complex every weekend. That's what they do. They don't teach their kids to fend for themselves. You know what they don't also teach them is their manners. I'll be like deep into my studying, into my political science theories and arguments and all that stuff, getting it all down, like typing away furiously, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, when I'm about to like reach an epiphany, over here from somewhere, oh, Jing Chong Ling Long Ting Tong. Oh.
I'm not laughing with her, I'm laughing at her. She's just so unbelievably stupid.
Now, so that's interesting because that's also at UCLA,
Yes.
right? So obviously this is something that's going on there. And I love that she's like, just before I reached an epiphany, then they rudely interrupted her. When have you ever reached an epiphany? Like, an epiphany might have been not doing that video, right? And I love how she's like, they don't have any manners and they don't know how to fend for themselves, whereas, of course, she does. You just push up a little bit, and that helps you to, you know, get anything you want. Okay, I mean, there's a million different problems there. But anyway, she has now left UCLA.
Yeah.
And then there was the anti-Latino graffiti there as well.
Yeah, so,
what the hell is going on here?
So there were racial slurs written at a Latino student's apartment door with spray paint. It said, "You rude, ignorant spick cunts, dirty Mexican bitch, oh, Mexamelt bitches, go eat some refried beans and shut up."
The refried beans line is really creative. First time I've ever seen it. Slash the 98th time. Like, come up with something new. Okay, so now, should you be in a panic over what's happening at UCLA? Probably not. Should they find these people, take serious action? Absolutely, right? And part of it is exactly what Anna's saying, that there are so many Asians, which is great because UCLA is a great school.
34% of the student body at UCLA is Asian.
That's funny because a friend of mine thought it was 104%. But it's 34%. So their success is now driving that kind of jealousy, bitterness, etc., and also internally to some degree. So Kim, what's your thoughts on the Vietnamese student, graffiti that they suffered? You're obviously partly Vietnamese, half Vietnamese.
I'm half Vietnamese and half white.
So
and
that's perfect.
I did attend UCLA.
Okay, I can't think of a better expert on this, actually. All right, so Kim, what is the correct answer?
I hate to agree to speculation, but I think there's a very high chance that you're right. I took a Vietnamese American Studies class, and in that class there was this Vietnamese man, college student, and
I love that description, boy man.
He had a really, he came out with this really angry attitude, like, oh, Asian women just go for white men because they like being subservient and they're sluts and they're whores and they're just stupid, they don't know any better. And it's just like, fuck you. That's, first of all, you're taking away any intelligence those women might have, that they're just mindless idiots who fall in love with any white man they see. They have a choice. They didn't choose you. Get the fuck over it.
Damn, regulating. And by the way, would it be an affront to your white side if you chose to date an Asian guy?
No.
Like, you see what I'm saying? It's so absurd. And second of all, 9 out of 10 times, if you hear a guy calling someone a slut, it's ironically because they're not getting laid. Okay, you see what I'm saying? Ah, those sluts. Really, are they having sex with you? No. So yeah, there's definitely that kind of built-up anger. And then there's the additional offensive part that you mentioned. Oh, they're doing it to be subservient. Or it could be the exact opposite. They're doing it because they're making up their own mind and not listening to you in your preconceived notions.
God forbid they think outside the box and date whoever they feel like instead of who they're supposed to date. You don't own those women, and I don't like that attitude.
I love that comment.
So quick question. Did you ever sense any animosity toward you for marrying a Chinese woman?
Who's going to dare to show animosity to me, to my face? Okay, no, seriously. Look, is this a well-known phenomenon? Of course. Like, so for example, I was once visiting Steve up at Cornell where he was going to school, and we went to an Asian American dance. I think it was a Korean dance. Because like, again, Cornell is like 89% Asian, and half of which are Korean, right? So anyway, we go to the dance, and the very fact that I and like one or maybe 2 other white guys, white non-Asian guys were there, right? Kept getting dirty stares like, oh yeah, what are you doing here? What are you doing here, man? Trying to check out our women? Is that what's going on? I'm like, dude, I'm visiting my friend. I just do back. Hey, I wish I could get laid here tonight, but I don't think it's going to happen. I'll be honest, okay? Anyway, and was I imagining it? No way. Steve was like, it is on, man. We better get out of here before there's a fight.
Jeez.
So that's happened. I mean, look, and I've dated women, by the way, this is, okay, an aside that's kind of funny. I've dated women of almost every race, and every time I do it, like, so I dated an Indian girl for a couple of years. This guy's always trying to steal Indian girls. Like, oh yeah, I guess you got an Indian fetish. Then I dated a Jamaican girl for like 4 years. Oh yeah, I guess he's got a black fetish, going after the black girls. Okay, then obviously I dated and then married Wendy, who's Chinese. Oh yeah, here we go again. Okay, yeah, this guy with a Chinese fetish, Asian fetish, going after our women. Now, to be fair, I do feel bad for the Chinese because there's 40 million extra men there. And
I know.
Okay, so I can see why they get a little territorial. No. I think Kim really nailed it there with the best point. It's so ironic that they say, oh, you're being subservient, etc., by going out with white guys, when they're also saying, be subservient to us by actually following our expectations of what you should do.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that the really most important point we're missing here is there was racial equality, and we could date anybody we wanted to at USC. There's plenty of Asians at USC. Okay. UCLA Crosstown has an issue with race. With their Asian population. You know, they don't appreciate their students.
It's like, oh, what does he have to say?
Stupid Trojan point. All right, okay. What's next?
All right. Nevada has banned same-sex marriage, and this case went all the way to a federal judge known as Judge Robert Jones, and he basically ruled on the constitutionality of banning same-sex marriage. And he basically argues that considering the recent successes of same-sex marriage in other states, well, gay people don't really need any protections in Nevada. You don't have to worry about anything. In fact, let me read you what he said in his ruling. It simply cannot be seriously maintained in light of these and other recent Democratic victories that homosexuals do not have the ability to protect themselves from discrimination through democratic processes such that extraordinary protection from majoritarian processes is appropriate.
That dude's trying too hard.
He's a judge.
Okay, I know, but there's a lot of processes in there. I got it. In other words, I will deny you rights because, I don't know, you guess you can get them in other ways.
What do you mean?
I mean, what's the ruling?
He's basically saying no same-sex marriage in Nevada.
Yeah, so he's denying them rights because he's like, yeah, well, you guys are so powerful now, you can go get them another way.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, if we're so powerful, why don't you just rule in our favor and give us, by the way, the same rights as everybody else has? Then perhaps we, would have the same amount of power you do.
Right, and then he goes on to talk about, how, look, we can't allow gay people to get married because we need babies. Like, we need to worry about the population. He says, the perpetuation of the human race depends upon traditional procreation between men and women. The institution developed in our society, its predecessor societies, and by nearly all societies on earth throughout history to solidify, standardize, and legalize the relationship between a man, a woman, and their offspring is civil marriage between one man and one woman.
See, that's what I'm saying. He's trying too hard. He's standardized, legalized. Just calm down, dude, okay? And the funny thing is, as he's trying to sound smart, he sounds like an idiot, because that is actually not true. That is historically not true at all, that it's always been a civil marriage between one man and one woman. There's been a million different arrangements, and it was based on a million different reasons and different combinations throughout history, throughout different cultures. It's not even true of probably his own Bible. I don't know what his religion is, but I can make a decent guess, right? And so he's not, with all the fancy words, etc., that he uses, he's not remotely correct.
Yeah, and look, the reason why I like this story is because it does serve as a bit of a wake-up call, right? Of course, there's still bigots out there. There are people who don't want to grant gay people the same rights as straight people, and it is a civil rights issue. I don't like when people try to word it in different ways, and you still got to fight back, and you have to be aggressive. Just because a few states have legalized same-sex marriage doesn't mean that we're winning. We got to keep pushing.
And it's just the weirdest and most perverse argument to say, since so many states have legalized it, I will not.
Yeah, it's so stupid. But by the way, let me just tell you one thing. Our population's doing fine, okay?
Yeah, it's not like we got a population problem. Oh my God, if we don't have procreation, we're going to run out of people at any moment now. We got 7 billion people on the earth. We're doing all right. If there's one thing humans have figured out, it's fucking, okay? So we got that on lockdown, okay? You can put you can rest easy at night now, okay? I love the idea that this conservative judge is up at night. Are people fucking enough? Are they fucking enough? I'm not sure there's enough guys and girls fucking, man, and we might run out of kids.
Yeah.
We're all right.
All right. An aspiring model named Kara Nichols went missing on October 9th, and authorities found photos of her on an escort site that's based in Las Vegas. So a bunch of media outlets had reported her as found as a prostitute in Las Vegas. Okay. Except it turns out that this Las Vegas-based escort service had just found her pictures online, and they used it in their advertisements.
So it turns out some of those escorts pictures aren't real?
Okay, everyone knows that, right? But here's what amazes me, that they can go on someone's, like, let's say Model Mayhem, or let's say someone's Facebook page, and they can just pick that picture out and go ahead and put it on as an advertisement. That's pretty scary.
Who's going to stop them, right? So in this case, they finally got into trouble because the authorities come up to them and they're like, okay, so where do you have her? She's missing. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, wait, no, we're just regular, ordinary, run-of-the-mill scumbags. We were just stealing her picture and pretending it's us so that we can make more money pimping, okay, or hooking, or whatever, right? Depending on who actually put up the pictures. They're like, but we're not such scumbags that we actually kidnapped her or murdered her or anything, so don't worry.
Yeah.
And it turns out that that's probably true. And so she is still missing. And it's amazing, man. She was on the road with two women.
Yeah.
And the authorities have talked to one of the women. They haven't even been able to locate the other one.
They haven't been able to locate the other woman. And look, the other two women are unidentified. We don't know who they are. And even though authorities are talking to one of them, it doesn't seem like she's telling them much, because they are desperately looking for the other woman to figure out, when they last spoke, when they, where they ended up, and they can't get any information out of her.
Now, as we've covered this many times before, these stories are overhyped, because anytime there's a missing blonde girl, the TV goes nuts over it. And now everybody calls her model. She's young. She was an aspiring model.
Right.
It's not like she was like hanging out with Naomi Campbell and all of a sudden they kidnapped one of the top models in the world, right? And it doesn't really, that doesn't matter at all, because her worth is the same whether she's famous or not famous. It's just I'm talking about the media phenomenon of like missing blonde girl. But at the same time, the reason I bring that up is if you get past that, it is still and this is why they do well on television with it, the Nancy Graces, et cetera, screaming about it. It's a visceral story, man. Imagine your daughter goes on a car trip to Denver and next thing you know she's missing and she's gone and nobody can find her.
There's so many elements of that story that are so suspicious, though, because she went to Denver. She's from Colorado. She went to Denver for a possible modeling gig, and she left behind her money in her purse. She's got in the car and left. So who knows?
No, there's obviously something terribly wrong, right? Man, that missing people thing is the scariest thing in the world. Imagine somebody you know and love is gone and you can't find them. How much would you flip out? That's why it's an emotional story that that a lot of people tune into on television.
Sometimes I wonder if I were to drop off from the face of the planet, like how long would it take for people to realize I'm gone? Like, of course you would realize I'm not here on the show or whatever, but when would the panic set in? Right?
2 weeks, definitely.
2 weeks? Yeah, 2 weeks. Of course, 2 weeks.
No, I'm kidding. 2 weeks is way too long.
Yeah.
No, the panic would set in like in a day.
No, it wouldn't set in a day, because you would assume like, oh, maybe she's sick, maybe something happened, it's okay, it'll be fine.
No. You're probably right, because we wouldn't want to bother you. So on a day and a half, we'd call your mom and your dad, and we'd be like, "What's up?" But they would have already called us because they'd be in a panic.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And look, we're in a privileged position, because if we go missing, a lot of people flip the fuck out, right? If you're not in a position like that and you go missing, and you're on your own, man.
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm
saying.
saying.
That is really, really frightening. Yeah.
All right. Leesburg, Virginia has had a history with putting nativity scenes on public land, and it turns out that some atheists have a problem with it. I don't really understand why. And Ken Reed, a supervisor representing Leesburg, is basically saying that these atheists are just scum of the earth. In fact, he specifically addresses them in this next video. Let's take a look.
Barred will be decidedly less traditional displays from recent years, including signs put up by local atheists who maintain using the courthouse lawn for religious displays violates the Constitution's call for separation of church and state. In the Washington Times, County Supervisor Ken Reed likened the atheists to terrorists, saying, quote, "None of the religious organizations in the county have had any problem with what we're doing. It's strictly this group of terrorists. They're fanatics who basically want to stamp out religion in all public life and property."
I'm amused by that in a couple of ways.
Yeah.
So I talked to all the religious groups, and we all agreed we should be religious. Oh, okay, well then problem solved. Okay. And then second of all, what did I tell you, man? The definition of terrorist was going to expand and expand. And I know it's just one guy, right? But there it is, just throwing it out there. If you're an atheist, you're a terrorist.
Right, but also the very last sentence of his statement I found hilarious, because he's like, they want to stamp out religion in public areas, in public land. Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. You're not. The state is not supposed to sponsor one particular religion, and in this case, they are sponsoring Christianity.
They are, and it's even if they include a menorah, et cetera, as they do this year. So last year was really interesting because they put the flying spaghetti monster and they put that Santa that was a skeleton you saw there, and atheist tree, et cetera. So that's good. At least they're being all inclusive, right? This year they set new rules up that it has to be attended at all times. For some reason, that leans towards the religious groups and does not allow the religious groups. So obviously, they're establishing a religion in the sense that they are excluding the non-religious groups.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So it's obvious. And so then that is obviously unconstitutional. When you point that out to him, it's like, I can't believe they're pointing out what we're doing. Terrorists.
Yeah, here's a great way to handle the situation. Just don't have anything up at all. If it's public land, don't have a menorah, don't have a nativity scene, don't have the flying spaghetti monster, don't have any of it. But in this case, they are deciding, okay, we'll do the nativity scene and we'll do a menorah. Everyone else can fuck off.
I kind of like the all-inclusive approach.
I liked it too, but you know what?
Because I love Christmas trees. I got no problem with it, even though I'm agnostic. Menorah, lovely. Everything's lovely. And then you throw in the flying spaghetti monster. It's kind of fun.
Well, what happened last year is after they did that, there was a lot of vandalism on some of the,
Okay,
but
so
I wonder who did the vandalism.
Exactly. If I don't know who did what, right? But if they're vandalizing the flying spaghetti monster, and then they use it as an excuse to exclude the flying spaghetti monster next year, well, isn't that ironic? Kind of rewarding the law breaking. Mm-hmm. But that kind of law breaking, apparently they didn't mind so much. JR.
Well, Ken Reed, who had the quote, they asked him at the later point in his interview of the news report if he regrets after he caught some heat for calling them terrorists. Here's the rest of that.
Do you feel tonight you owe them an apology?
Well, I guess so. Yeah,
Is that an apology?
Sure. But I still think they're fanatical.
Just don't apologize. Like, don't.
That was actually, it wasn't the worst apology we've ever seen. There's a lot of bad apologies.
That was the worst apology.
No. It was the funniest apology.
Okay.
Like, nah, I guess. Maybe. Kind of, yeah. I mean, they're still fanatical. Okay. Terrorists, maybe. But fanatical, definitely. Okay. All right.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, the NYPD is pictured doing something sweet. Is that going to change the face of the New York Police Department? And then later, Mississippi's only abortion clinic is probably going to shut down.
Oh, cool. All right, back on the Young Turks. Cenk and Anna with you.
Officer Larry DePrimo with the New York Police Department was pictured doing something very, very kind for a homeless man who was barefoot. He gave him basically boots that are appropriate for all seasons. They're all weather boots. Mm-hmm. And he also gave him a clean pair of socks that he can wear. And he reportedly said, I have these size 12 boots for you. They're all weather. Let's put them on and take care of you. Now,
That's great.
It is great. This photo went viral. Everyone's been talking about it. As of Thursday morning, it had about 109,000 shares. So everyone's talking about it. Oh, look at the sweet guy. But Salon kind of came at it from a different perspective.
I bet they did, those libs.
It was an interesting perspective. So the NYPD took this picture. They put it up on their website. It's great PR, and I can understand that. And I don't want to belittle what this officer did because it is kind. But Salon basically doesn't want you to think like, oh, the NYPD is different now. They're like these caring people. Mm-hmm. I mean, they've been brutal to homeless people, especially in the past year. Mm-hmm. So
look, one guy being a decent guy doesn't change your record on civil liberties, whether it's how they treated and spied on Muslims, or the Occupy movement, or what they're doing to homeless people.
Yeah, or the stop and frisks. I mean, the NYPD has been involved in so many controversial issues this year alone. And, one video that we unfortunately didn't get to on our show, but I think you guys should definitely check it out. Officers were caught brutalizing a homeless guy who was sleeping at a Brooklyn Jewish community center. Okay, he was just sleeping, and they tased him, and it was brutal, and that video went viral. So that's just one of many examples, and that's not to say the entire force is bad. There are great cops out there that are doing great work, but there is a problem that should be addressed as well. So
yeah, no, I'll go further. I mean, it's the leadership. It's Ray Kelly. He doesn't really care about the law. He's like, the law applies to you. It doesn't apply to me. I'll stop and frisk anybody I like, and the overwhelming percentage of people who are stopped and frisked are minorities, of course. Oh, whoa, what a wild coincidence. Constitution, who cares, right? Oh my God, spying in on Muslims, innocent Muslims who didn't do anything wrong, who you have no suspicion on, the law be damned. Infiltrating Occupy, the law be damned. We're only the law enforcers. So that kind of lawless attitude comes from the top, from Ray Kelly. I don't think it reflects on the guys who are doing the job to any degree like it does on Ray Kelly. And this guy seems like a great guy, and God bless his heart. And look, it's a great story, but it shouldn't be so surprising to us that our cops are there to protect and to serve us. That's what it says in the car, to serve and to protect,
if
right?
If it says it on the car, it must be true.
Right? I mean, that's the slogan.
Right.
And so, and they're supposed to be the finest, and this was a moment where they were the finest, and it's
Definitely.
great.
Yeah, and as I said before, I don't want to belittle what he did. It was great. But, you know, what you said was absolutely right. You have to look at the leadership and the bigger picture.
All right, no. Let's have a little bit of fun. Did they plant it?
I don't know.
That's where you were going, right? Conspiracy-minded JR had brought in the mic. Sorry to have cut you off. I should have guessed you were going.
I was going to sit back and not say anything. I thought you guys were moving on, so I was like, it's okay. It probably don't need to say this, but come on. It's not obvious, of course. It's not a given, but when your track record is lately and probably forever has such a negative tone, and it's good. Citizens overall, we want to forgive and forget in general. But the people that were directly affected, I'm sure, don't want to forgive and forget. And they're like, well, okay, yeah, I'm glad you helped the guy out, but that's not doing it for me. And it's like I'm saying, I wish it was the other way. I wish it worked both ways. Like you said, the picture was shared so many times. Everybody loves it. Oh, look at this great situation. And I like that. I just wish once they get called out for doing horrible things, they would go, we're sorry, we're going to change our complete policy. I wish the turnaround was just as fast. That's all.
You know what? If it turns out that it was that they had decided to do this, and well, you look at this picture of this great cop. Now I'll look away. If they did it, I have to give them a lot of credit, because that is some brilliant PR, man. Because it totally worked. To JR's point, everybody's forgotten about the other homeless people they beat up. Everybody's forgotten about everything else. The major story that everybody's talking about, oh, New York cops are like the greatest people on earth, right? And if they didn't frame it, which they likely didn't, it was probably just a really decent guy, right?
It was a tourist.
It was a tourist.
Yeah.
Tourist unknown tourist who now cannot be located.
That I don't know.
No, I don't know.
Maybe he is identified. I haven't.
I'm playing. But if more likely scenario is just a normal organic thing that happened, they got to be thinking, man, who gets this lucky, right? Which then leads back to JR saying, who gets this lucky?
Mississippi's only abortion clinic might be forced to close in January when a law takes effect in the state. And basically, the law would force abortion providers to get hospital admitting privileges. And basically, what they have to do is literally go to a hospital, apply for admitting privileges, and if they get that, then they will be able to continue their, their business. But unfortunately, that's very difficult to do. Now, a judge had ruled that, okay, we're going to wait until January for this law to take effect. That way, you guys will have ample time to go out there and get what you need to do, or do what you need to do. However, 7 clinics applied for the hospital admitting privileges, and all 7 have been denied.
Oh, well, again, an unbelievable coincidence. Yeah, as it turns out, the guys who passed the law that would make it harder to get an abortion in Mississippi decided to make it even a little harder to get the proper licenses that would allow you to give that abortion. What a wild coincidence. I'm sure that they considered each case individually and only on its merits, having nothing to do with the abortions that are being provided in those facilities. Or this is a way of making abortion illegal by skirting the law, which, by the way, is in itself illegal, right? So what they're trying to do is do an end run around the Constitution.
Yep.
And it's what Martin Luther King used to say during the Civil Rights Movement. He said it's a common misconception that we're doing civil disobedience, that we are breaking the law peacefully to make a point. He's like, that's actually not true. We are within the law. We are exercising our rights that the United States Constitution has given us, the Supreme Court has agreed to, the federal laws have been passed. It's actually the cops that are hosing us and sending the dogs on us that are breaking the law. They're the ones doing disobedience. And the same here with the authorities in Mississippi. It is the law of the land that abortion is legal. They're trying to make it illegal in Mississippi by doing this nonsense.
Right, and look, a lot of conservatives and libertarians will argue that this is a state's issue, but all women are equal. You know, this is not a state's issue. Women need these protections, and part of the reason why they need these protections is because it's an economic issue. If a woman can't have control over her body and her family planning, well, you're going to get pregnant. Or when you don't want to get pregnant, then you're forced to have that child. If you feel desperate enough, if you're in poverty and you can't afford to have another baby, you might take matters into your own hands, and that's when you have the back alley abortions. I mean, people say it, and it's not something to scare people. It happened. It was part of our history, and we don't want to go back to that situation.
So let me make one quick point about states' rights here. We often mock the conservatives for being inconsistent on states' rights. So they'll say it's state right to deny an abortion, for example, but it's not a state's right to legalize marijuana. It's a state's right to deny gay marriage, but it's not a state's right to allow gay marriage, right? So they're obviously wildly hypocritical and totally wrong. So what's my view on states' rights? It's the one we have on all issues, which is it depends. It depends on the context. So for example, if a state wants to experiment with pot legalization or euthanasia or other things, I say that that's an issue that is not a core constitutional right. It's a perfect thing to experiment with. And you could also experiment with how you deliver health care, for example. And we might really, really disagree with that, and it might affect a lot of people's life, but it's not a core constitutional right. So if Mississippi wants to do it in a different way and that we're not comfortable with, that's a sad day for us. It's a states' rights issue, okay? But if it's a core constitutional right, for example, when the states said, oh, well, we don't want black people and white people getting married, or we don't want them going to the same school. Well, you don't have that state right because it's a core constitutional issue. And the same here with women's rights. The Constitution says that it is a core constitutional right that they have a right to privacy and to control their own bodies. So you don't get to say, states' rights, haha, I just take that away from you.
Yeah, definitely. And by the way, Mississippi has the highest teen pregnancy rate and the lowest rate of abortions because they don't have access to abortions. And there is one clinic left in Jacksonville that will be set to shut down because of this new law in the state. And in order for you to get an abortion, you will have to drive 3 hours outside of Jacksonville, go to a clinic nearby, consult with the doctor, wait 24 hours, and if you still want to get the abortion, that's when you get the abortion.
And by the way, of course, that costs more money because you'll have to stay at a hotel nearby or drive back and forth, etc. They're trying to make it as hard as possible. And by the way, also, the conservatives of Mississippi believe that contraception is not to be encouraged, and hence they have the highest teen pregnancy rate in the country.
Right. All right, let's end on a kind of funny note. Middle Eastern men are going under the knife to get mustache transplants.
Look, wait a minute. What kind of self-respecting Middle East man can't grow their own mustache? Okay, and that's probably the problem here, right?
Yes.
They probably feel insecure because they're like, oh my God. I mean, a real man has a really cheesy looking mustache.
No, but that's kind of amazing. You know, I saw that Morgan Spurlock film, Mansom, and how, you know, men are using their facial hair as you know, their unique quality, right? The way that they stand out, the way that they express themselves. And it's interesting because in the United States, you have a mustache and you're like a 1970s porn star. In the Middle East, you have a mustache and it means you're wise, it means that you're strong, it means that you're a man. Right, and it means that you're intelligent. That's the amazing thing. That a mustache means that you're intelligent. How can somebody with a mustache
be considered intelligent?
No, but it's funny to connect those two. Like, what does a mustache have anything to do with being intelligent?
So Jesus has a mustache, of course, for Movember, right? And as a lot of the guys do here at the studio. Jesus, you're going to love the Middle East, man. It's Movember every month.
All year long, I guess.
Yeah, there you go.
And I can't believe this would get me laid in the Middle East.
It would have gotten you laid in the 70s, and it would get you laid in the Middle East.
Well, I guess it shows you that the Middle East is still stuck in the 70s.
Well, that's actually not that bad a point. And look, my own home country, Turkey, is the classic example of this.
Yes. Can I please delve into the details a little bit?
By all means.
So yes, Turkish men love the mustache. And apparently there's a Turkish plastic surgeon who's making a ton of money by doing these mustache transplants. Now, the way that they do it is similar to the way they do like the hair plugs, right? Where they'll find a hairy part of your body, they'll take the hair follicles from there, and then they'll implant it into the place where you want hair.
A lot of times it's your ass. So how's that funny?
No way.
Sometimes that happens. And now, look, if you're having trouble growing hair on your lip, you might also have trouble growing it on your ass. But in some cases, I've read that they take it from your ass. Then how do you like that? I will be more manly. I will take a part of my ass and put it on my face.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I didn't know that. Okay, but this Turkish plastic surgeon says that he does 50 to 60 mustache transplants per month. Isn't that amazing?
That is crazy.
And a lot of Turkish men...
I can't believe there's 50 or 60 Turkish guys who can't grow a mustache.
That is kind of amazing, right? And a lot of Turkish men want to look like this singer named Ibrahim.
Ibrahim Tatlıses.
Yes, that's the guy. We have a picture of him.
Okay, who wants to look like this guy? Come on, come on. Look, this is maybe the most famous singer in Turkey in my lifetime. There's been a couple others, Zeki Müren, Bülent Ersoy, etc. But so this guy, man, this guy is old school, okay? And he's gotten in a lot of trouble for old school violence and guns, etc. But look at that, man. That is a mustache, and that guy is proud. And he has a swagger, too. You should see him on TV. He's like, okay? And you know his last name, Tatlıses, you know what it means? It means sweet voice.
Oh.
And he's a top singer in Turkey.
Yeah.
Coincidence? Perhaps not.
And by the way, another person who has a pretty badass mustache that I always forget about is my dad.
Oh, really?
My dad has a pretty...
Oh, that's a hilarious old picture. That's just nothing but funny. Okay, that's a man. He don't need no mustache transplant. All right. So that's funny. And of course, a lot of the leaders in the Middle East, including Erdogan, the leader of Turkey, and unfortunately Assad, the leader of Syria, Abbas, the leader of the Palestinians in the West Bank, etc., have mustaches. So people are like, that's how you... On the flip side, Saddam Hussein had a mustache.
Yeah.
No, it didn't work out too well. Okay. But it is funny and interesting how different the cultures can be and how different our perceptions can be. But now, to be fair, I've lived in both cultures. I was born in Turkey, and I didn't think it looked cool back then either. Like, when I was growing up in Turkey, everybody had a mustache, and I still didn't get it.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, that's all, right?
Yep.
We're out of time. Everybody have an awesome time. It's Friday, so usually don't members get a Dave Kohler special post-game on Fridays? That's probably the case. Those are always hilarious. You can look forward to that. We love you guys. Have a great weekend.